Hi guys, it is Wednesday morning, July 8th, and aren't you impressed that I actually know the day? I'm getting better at this. Today we are, we are always ASMM Digital Small Business Connections, but we are thinking about changing our name. So if you have a name you think we should use, I'm leaning towards self-awareness for entrepreneurs or the self-aware entrepreneur. But we also have a suggestion out there for Entrepreneur Lifeline. So if you have a suggestion, you have something you like, let me know. You can leave comments anywhere because right now we are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on YouTube. And now all of those are live. So if you leave a comment, I can see them. Which also means if you have a question you want to ask Michelle while we're going today, you can do that. I want to also remind you, and I'm begging, that's what I do every day. I beg, please go over and subscribe at youtube.com/BrennanAnnie. We need 1,000 subscribers to monetize that channel. And mostly I want my kids to think I'm cool enough to have a monetized YouTube channel. So help a mama out. Again, one more thing. ASMM Campus, you can go there and get some education on how to do your own social media if you're not ready to hire somebody. And a reminder to ask questions, because if you ask questions, you'll learn something new. And Michelle, you've got experts right here on the show who can help you out. So please do ask a question while we're live today. So today I have Michelle Vandepas from GracePoint Matrix. This is really exciting, Michelle. I know, and the camera's funny because you leaned the opposite direction up where I know. It confuses everybody.
I got it. We're good. Hi, it's so great to be here this morning.
I'm so glad you're here. So Michelle, tell us what you do.
So I am a book publisher, and that means I wear a million hats, right? I do a lot of book coaching. I help authors figure out what they want to put in their book. I help potential authors figure out if they even want to write a book. And then we go through the whole editing, publishing, and marketing process. So there's a lot of hats to being a book publisher.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it. So where are you located?
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Oh, well, that is a lovely place. I visited out that way. Gosh, it had to have been 2011 because our son was trying to choose between the 3 academies. So we went out to
nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
He ended up at West Point, hated
Nice.
it, left. He tells me to not say that. He says, don't tell people I hated it. It just wasn't for me. But he hated it. Every time he came home, he went, ah.
But he stuck it out? That's impressive.
No, he left. It just wasn't for him. And I knew that before he went. So it was, a learning lesson. But, Colorado Springs is lovely out there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So today because we're talking to entrepreneurs, so many of them are considering a book and some who should aren't. So tell us, do they need a book? Why should they have one? What do you think?
Yeah, great question. So here's sort of what I think. If you are thinking at some point, I want to write a book, if you're going, writing a book's on my bucket list, if you've had the thought, wow, I should really write a book about that, then yes, all of those things mean you should write a book. If you are in business and you're looking for new ways to leverage yourself, you're looking for a new marketplace or a new way for lead gen or to reach new people, then writing a book could be one of those ways to do that. If you are thinking, I'm not a writer, I don't know how to write a book, that's okay. We can help you with that. There's lots of book coaches. There's lots of ways to get help with that. So that's not the reason to stop, because as entrepreneurs, we're always doing things we don't know how to do. That's one of the things entrepreneurs do, right? We jump in, we try new things. And so don't let the fear or the worry about not knowing stop you. There are experts out there to help you.
That's great. And I love what you said. I mean, it does help you leverage and it helps you. So I think there's a couple of things. First of all, it helps you leverage and get yourself out there. It shows people you're the expert. And if you're considering speaking more, it's almost mandatory that you have a book that you can say, yes, and here's my book, right?
Or a monetized YouTube channel. That's pretty cool too.
Exactly. Well, if I ever get there, my kids just don't believe it's going to happen. So I have a 14-year-old who lives on YouTube. So it'd be nice for him to see, I think. So we already have people watching. So we have people watching. It's nice when people tune in and let us know they're here. So entrepreneurs and writing, it doesn't necessarily go together. You know, I
Right.
talked to somebody this morning about that, and they said, I have nothing to say. And I wanted to just, I couldn't believe it. I almost fell out of my chair, because this is a person who is an expert in real estate. I mean, she's a realtor, but she's not just a realtor. She's a realtor who's got a ridiculous amount of knowledge. So she does have something to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And can we just use her as an example? So what I would do is I would get inside of her head and maybe interview her for an hour. So what are the top 3 biggest mistakes you see sellers make when they try to sell their house, right? So it may be, so I bought a rental house a while back, and we'd already signed the contract, and the ex-owner went in and painted the whole front porch fluorescent blue. And I drove by and I'm like, stop, what are you doing? Like, we've already signed. I own the place now. And he's like, oh, I just wanted to make it nice for you. That has got to be one of the worst. The first thing we did was go in and repaint it, right?
Right.
So what are the top 3 things mistakes sellers make, right? It could be wrong paint. It could be bad landscaping. It could be, what selling as is, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a realtor. What are the top 3 mistakes buyers make when they go to buy a house? And then maybe what are the top 3 things buyers should think about when they're getting ready to buy their house, right? So right there, you got 9 things. You've got a book, 9 things everyone should know before they buy or sell their house. And that would make her an elevated expert in her industry. She's already an expert, but imagine if she had that book then to pass out, to give away to prospective buyers and sellers, to say, here's what I think about the industry. That's going to make any prospective client go, wow, she really knows what she's talking about. We should hire her.
Absolutely. And I think people are afraid, because I think there's 2 things. I think, first of all, they think they have to write, the next great book, right? They have to write something big and, something that's going to be fantastic and go to number 1. And, they have to do all of that. And a lot of times you're writing the book for your immediate audience, right? You're writing it so you can give it away, hand it to somebody, and have it used that way.
Yeah, there's 2 kinds of people who put out books. There are writers, and those are the people that sit down, write every day. They write many, many books throughout their careers. Maybe, they could be in business, or they could be public speakers or inspirational people, but they'll write 10, 20, 50 books over a lifetime. They work on their craft. They're disciplined about writing. Then there's other people who just put out 1 or 2 or 5 books in their lifetime. They put it out for inspiration, something to say, to elevate themselves. And neither one is the only way to do it, right? Both are important ways to get a book out. And so even if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't honed the craft of writing, we can fix that in editing. Doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It can be something that you give to prospective clients or use for lead gen, just to help in your business.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a client, actually, I put her name down here so I could put it up here and show you guys. I have a branding client, and she uses this as for her clients. She's like, one of the first things, she's like, let's create your logo, let's create your brand, and let's get somebody to help you create a book. Even if you're not a writer, we'll get somebody to help you create the book. And she uses it for that lead gen. And that is amazing. So Suzanne Ratti does that.
Nice.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about the process? Because I think that's something people are afraid of. What is the process?
Yeah, there's big pieces of publishing a book. And the first part, and we're just going to focus on entrepreneurs here because they're busy. They usually have a million things going on, lots of fingers in different pies. And so this process might be different for a healer or for a retired person, right? But for an entrepreneur who's really busy, what we usually do is I'll interview them, or one of our book coaches will interview them. We'll transcribe all that, and we'll get the bare bones structure of an outline for a book. Then I'll send the author off to go fill in some of that, either with bullet points or thoughts or whatever, just some mind dumping, some more mind dumping to get deeper, to get underneath what that message is. What is going to make this book stand out, this book be different than anything else out there? Then we go through editing, which is a whole nother big process in itself because that scares people. Um, Authors are often scared that their words are going to be changed or it's going to be misconstrued or rewritten. But I'm here to tell you a good editor will work with you, will take your words, your thoughts, your message, and fine tune it and polish it so it really is the best it can be when it goes out as a published book. Then we have everything from ISBN's copyright page, seeing if we can get a forward from somebody, creating a table of contents, look and feel of the book, the size of the book, the layout, the gutters, the margins, kerning, all those things that go into the actual technical piece of putting the book together. And then we may do things like pre-launch, ask for endorsements before the book gets published, and do some marketing. And then we publish the book, maybe through a number of different places, but Amazon for sure, and work on getting reviews and some marketing after the fact. All of that could take anywhere from 3 months to a year, depending,
Okay.
right? And then you've got the book. So once you have it, then you can decide, am I going to keep marketing it? Am I just going to say, hey, I'm a published author, go get my book? Then you can choose how you're going to use that for the next 5 or 10 years.
So actually, there was a question and we didn't get to talk ahead of time. So I had put collaboration publishing on this, and that's what this is what you're talking about, as compared to traditional, which is I'm assuming the author writes the book and then tries to get it published.
Right, right. So what we do, which is a little different than anybody else out in the marketplace, is we really work with the author every stage of the book. Lots of input to help get what's in the author's head out onto the paper. So through an interview process, through one-on-one work with a book coach, through one-on-one work with an editor. Usually if you go traditional publishing, you present your manuscript to a traditional publisher and they take it from there, and the author has nothing more to say about the book, not even on the book cover. You also have to have a finished manuscript, usually, unless you've already gotten book deals in the past, to even go to a publisher. And so that's a big feat. If you've never written a book before, how do you get a manuscript together to go to a traditional publisher? And then unless you have a big audience, most traditional publishers aren't even going to talk to you.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So I published one book. I published it on Amazon. And I did it all by myself, and it was a daunting process. So I really understand and I wrote another book that was a novel. So it has nothing to do with my business. And that was another daunting process. It didn't get out there, it didn't get published, and it was sad. So, who is this? She says, Kat Harvey's another writer that we work with. She says, I met with Kat Harvey every Friday for more than 6 months. My bet is that's John Maggio. His name is not showing up there, but he just did this. He just went through a whole process, wrote a book, and did something similar to what you do, except for I think he self-published it and worked with just a writer and himself. So that's a lot different as well.
Cool. So I have a question about your book. So is it still up on Amazon? Can we go look at it?
It is. No idea. It's actually about running. And it's funny because apparently you can also listen to it. It's not like been turned into audiobook, but you can listen to it. And somebody called me recently and said they were running on a treadmill, and they're like, it was really weird because it was like I had you in my head.
Nice.
And it's all about the mental side of running. So it's called A Running Commentary.
Nice. I'll go look it up after.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. So I want you to talk about some of the mistakes we make, because you just said that. What are the mistakes other people make in different industries? But what are the mistakes authors make?
Yeah, so there's some big ones. Number one is not understanding that this is a little bit of a creative process. Just like building a business is, you have got to allow for some magic to come in. So very often I'll work with authors who are very cut and dry in their writing, and so it makes for bland, boring reading. And we need some of that magic to come in. We need some of that heart to come in. And that's where a book coach and a good editor will help. And so the first thing I ask authors to do is pour your heart out onto the page, and don't worry about if it's too vulnerable yet. We don't know if it's going to make it to the end of the book. We don't know if it's going to be in the published final version. But what we need is your heart, because that's what sets you apart. And so don't worry about what goes out there. We will polish it in editing. So that's the first mistake, is they get too cut and dried. The second mistake is really not paying for or working with a publisher that's going to give you really good, clean layout and design. So layout and design is when you open a book. I can show you a couple examples here. It's everything from the gutters in here to what do the chapter headings look like. Is there anything across the top of the page with, for instance, the book title or the chapter title across the top? How does the spacing look on the page? You want that to be really great. You want that to look good. And then the third thing is the book cover has to be stellar and stand out. People always make book covers that are way too busy. If you go look at the top 10 books that are selling in your genre on Amazon, that'll give you an idea of what's selling right now. So as entrepreneurs, we all know that we have to sell, that it is about moving product or getting in front of your potential readers. And so use these things to up your game, and don't be so married to it that you want it to look a certain way up front.
That's great advice, because I think, well, first of all, I think a lot of people get stuck on the whole cover. They're like, well, I might be able to write a book, but I don't think I could design that cover. I don't think I could do that. So you as a publisher can help with that.
Yeah, and what I see is usually the opposite. They come with preconceived notions about what they want the cover to look like.
Okay.
And say, I've already chosen my picture. This is what I want the cover to look like. And I always say, fine, we'll test it. Let us test it against 2 or 3 other covers so we could really see what's going to do well in the marketplace.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. How do people choose? I mean, and actually, do you have a choice? Are there authors or publishing companies out there who are ready for you? So how do you choose a publisher?
So usually, so it's a really interesting question. I would say you got to go with somebody where you feel there's a connection, because you're going to be working one-on-one intimately in a relationship that hopefully will be ongoing for years. So you've got to find somebody, and this works with the publisher too. How do we choose our authors? We actively go after some authors because we think this is going to be a really good match. There's good synergy here. We love what you're putting out there in the market. We love your blogging or whatever. And so we may actively go after those people. Someone who's looking to write a book should really call the publishing company and find out if there's some synergy there. Does someone answer the phone? Will you get return emails? Is there anyone to talk to? Will you get assigned an editor or a book coach? Do you have any say in what the end book is going to look like or not? These days, you're going to pay for publishing one way or another. You're either going to pay for it in your own time, researching things like kerning and gutters and all those kinds of things in ISBN, or you're going to hire someone to help you through that process, right? It's just time or money. And so you get to decide, how much am I going to invest? Am I going to invest my own time in doing all these things, or am I going to invest in a publisher to help me with these things? And then who really gets me as an entrepreneur, as an author? Who, when I talk to them, understands what it is I'm trying to do with this book, and who has the best chance of helping me get that done?
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I never even thought about it, honestly. How you go about doing that. I guess it goes back to when I wrote my novel. And when you write your novel, you have to send out all the things to different publishers and say, will you please take my book? And that was not easy. And then you don't know when they write back what they mean by what they're saying half the time, and what you should be doing. And then the other thing that they in that process, they were like, and what would your second book be about?
Right. Totally. So publishers definitely need to see if a traditional publisher, especially for nonfiction, needs to see a series of books, because the first book almost always loses money. You're making money on the second, third book. Not true with business books. Can I talk about that for a minute?
Oh, absolutely.
So with business books, people always are daunted by the upfront cost. And like I said, it's time or money. You don't have to pay anybody to go publish your book. But as you said earlier, it's a daunting process, and you're going to learn a lot and make some mistakes along the way. So you get to choose. But if you pay someone to help you through the publishing process, like, for instance, like ourselves, then what you're doing is you're investing in the book because it's going to be lead gen for you. You're probably not going to make money back right away on book sales. You're just not. Where you are going to make money back is that one client who signs the contract with you. Imagine if you're a realtor, how many new clients you have to sign to pay for the book. Like probably 1/10 of a client or something. I mean, I don't know what the average money is, right? But you're going to pay for your book if you get one client out of your book. So the way to think about this is really an investment in your business. We make sure that you have something in the book that leads to your website, leads to an opt-in, leads to some lead gen of some kind, leads to the next step, a call to action, a free workbook, some kind of download, so that you can nurture those clients. I've had some people write books and just put their phone number. If this resonates with you, call me. And that works as well, right? For some people, usually an older generation. I've got teenagers at home too. And, you mentioned you have a 14-year-old, my teenager doesn't like to actually pick up a phone too much.
Oh, no.
But an older generation, they will pick up the phone. And so if that's who your market is, put your business phone number right in the book. And you'll be amazed what you can do in terms of using the book to make money back in terms of actual clients.
Well, and I find that, I own a small business as well. I own a digital marketing agency. I find that that's the case no matter what you do, that if you put money in, usually something good comes from it. We just talked about this. I created the campus, right? I created the campus. I took the risk of creating a whole new website, spending my time on it and spending the money on it.
Right.
And what came out of it was wasn't actually that I got a lot of people on there. I think we will. But what really came out of it is that they created a grant locally that was basically based off of, did you take a risk during coronavirus? We want to give you a grant to pay for what you did. And I was like, that paid for itself.
Right.
So now my campus is out there. You just don't know what's going to happen when you invest in yourself or in your business.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, that goes back to in every single podcast I've done for the past couple of weeks, I've talked about Walt Disney, and I'm going to talk about him again today because I'm reading a book about Walt Disney. And I was curious because he was building Walt Disney Studios when the Depression hit. And I thought, oh my gosh, as I'm reading, I'm going, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? Well, nothing happened to him because he was only reinvesting in his studio. And so that was a really great lesson to learn, is invest in your company, invest in yourself, and good things will come from it.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but speaking of books and speaking of books that I've enjoyed, tell me about your favorite books.
So right now I'm reading Atomic Habits and I love it. It's really, it's more than 1 million copies sold or something right now. It's interesting because I find that I have done a lot of what he's talking about throughout the years to build my business. And that's one of the reasons probably that I am successful in my business. But there's so much to be gleaned from that book. So I love that.
Wait, hold on. What was that book again?
Atomic Habits.
Atomic,
like atomic bomb.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, great.
I think I've seen it and I haven't read it. Yeah.
Yep. And then I always, when I mentor other entrepreneurs, I always say go back to some basics in sales, because writing a book is just another sales tool for entrepreneurs. And so you're going to
Right.
have some sales copy in there. You're going to have call to action in there. You're going to talk about what stops people from buying in your book if you're using it for that reason. So go back to some classics. Go back and listen to Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and some of the old school sales gurus out there, and read some of those books. They'll take you a long way as an entrepreneur.
That is really great advice, because it is so easy to just go, what's the latest, right?
Yeah.
And not to talk bad about the latest, but I just said to my husband, I almost prefer biographies these days. And actually, my 3 top favorite books are all biographies. I
Yeah.
love Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I love the book about Steve Jobs, and then this Walt Disney books is blowing my mind. But part of that is that so many of the books that are on the market right now, as far as books that are self-help or business type books, almost always come from a single article in some magazine, and then they expand it. And it's almost like you should have just kept with the article, because I don't have time to read that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some good books out there, but there's a boom in the publishing industry, which is both good and bad. You can get overwhelmed by the amount of choices out there right now.
Exactly. And you just have to take great advice. Yeah. Exactly. And you just have to, for me, I hardly ever pick up a book without asking somebody else what they're reading, which is how I ended up with the Disney book.
Yeah.
I spoke with Alex over at Mojo, and he said, oh yeah, you have to read this book. And then my next one on the list is The Everything Store, which is about Jeff Bezos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, all right. So people can find you at GracePointMatrix.com, and they can also find you at yourname.com. So MichelleVandepas.com.
Right.
Yeah.
All roads lead back to me.
There you go. And then you are on Facebook as GracePoint, right? On Facebook as GracePoint Matrix.
Yeah, and GracePoint Publishing as well.
Okay.
And Instagram, GPP Publishing. And if you Google GracePoint Matrix or GracePoint Publishing, you'll find me.
Awesome. That sounds perfect. All right. Let's talk about who we have coming up on Monday. So I'm taking Friday. I will be working, but I won't be doing the podcast Friday. Monday, we're going to have Winsome Brown on. First of all, we're going to definitely talk about her name, because it's adorable how she got her name. But also, we're going to talk about juggling everything as a sandwich generation, right? So many of us are raising our kids, and we have parents who they need us. And we're running a business. So how do you juggle all of those things? How do you juggle taking care of your parents, taking care of your kids, and running your business? So we're going to talk about some of those tips that she's got, because that's what she does. She helps people with their elder care, with their parents who are having a hard time. So we're going to talk about that. Michelle, this has really been great. I'm so glad that you came on. So is there something, do you have a call to action you'd like to tell people to do, something that you think they should do today?
So if you're thinking about writing a book and you've just had that thought and you don't know what to do, just start writing some notes down and pretend you're writing the back cover of your book. So what that would be is something like, when you pick up this book, you're going to learn the 3 things that every buyer should do before they go to buy their house, and the 3 mistakes every seller makes when they go to sell their house, right? And so you just write the back cover of your book, and that will help take all these thoughts that you have in your head, all these millions of thoughts, and synthesize them down into one paragraph.
That is a great point. I hadn't thought about that. And of course, we we are a digital marketing agency, so we are always thinking of ways to market ourselves. And so a book is on our list. The podcast came first almost by accident. So yeah. All right. I want to remind everybody that you can subscribe. Speaking of the podcast, you can subscribe on YouTube, which we want. But also, if you're listening to this on Spotify, or you're listening to it on Libsyn or iTunes, please subscribe there. Also, leave a review. If you have got some comments about how we're doing, let us know. I think we're getting better every single time. we're learning. This, again, was an accidental podcast. We really started it to highlight our customers and our clients, to get them out there. And then it became something much bigger than itself. So please do leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. If you need help with your digital marketing, you can find us at asmmdigital.com. We'd love to talk to you about how to take your digital marketing to a whole new level. And we will also be there to put you in touch with. You can find every single podcast we've done there. We've got them listed as podcasts, and we've got them listed as videos. So you should be able to find every single one of them there. Thank you guys so much. And Michelle, thank you so much for coming in today. This was really fun.
It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys.